Let's bring him on. Tony
Great.
Basilio.
Gentlemen, how we doing?
Tony, how are you?
It's a great day to be alive and well, guys.
Okay, I believe it. I believe it. So tell me, first of all, what was it you speculated on, Billy?
Well, he told me he got logged out of his email.
Okay. I like it.
That is accurate. That's a man that doesn't know. Lucky he can tie his shoes in the morning. At this rate, I'll have Velcro straps next week for shoelaces.
Okay, so tell people what you've been doing around these games that Tennessee's been playing.
George, the other night, I did a listener watch party Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And Billy put a rather prophetic text out, or tweet out, rather, that I saw where he said, boy, I bet this is fun for Tennessee fans. And at that point, it wasn't a lot of fun for Tennessee fans. I left my own listener watch party early to get back and get on our post-game show. And when I was driving back, I was listening to Tennessee's John Wilkerson does the games here, the play-by-play voice. And they had that incredible rally, in the ninth, and came back and won. We jumped on as soon as the game was over, and we were on for a little right around 3 hours. We got off at 2:30 Eastern time. And when I went off the air, there was still a full bank of calls. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. My brain is just
fried.
Fried. And then we looked up. We were looking at the numbers on our back line, because you can do that now. And literally, it's like football game like numbers is what we did in June. Like, it's comparable to a football post-game show. Like, tens of thousands of people heard that post-game the other night. It's insane.
I believe it, because the show that we did on Friday had a certain number around 9 p.m. An hour later, when Tennessee's victory over Florida State happened, the number on the podcast more than doubled. How about that? We don't even live there. So, yeah, I believe it.
It's unreal. And it's such a crazy sport. I mean, I'm watching North Carolina, Florida State right now, because Tennessee gets one of these teams tomorrow, and they just moved the game to 3 Eastern because of the weather there. Right. So they've, and so this game was 7-1. Florida State was just absolutely cruising, and now it's, bottom of 8. North Carolina's got the tying run at the plate, a 7-5 game. These games are just, as you know, these games are just never over. It's crazy.
And it's a ton of fun to watch. So, Tony, I've got this theory. When you get to Omaha, you got to win 4 or 5 games to win it all. And when you steal one, the way Tennessee did Friday night, Vandy had the same thing happen one year when they won it all. They had a 3-run homer in the 9th inning. I want to say it was Cal State Fullerton.
Mm-hmm.
And when you steal one, when there are only 4 or 5 to get as a whole, to me, you rise to the top of the class. To me, they're the obvious favorite now to win this thing. You buy that?
Yeah, I mean, all year it was going to be them and Florida State as the 2 favorites, right? And just betting wise. And then coming into the tournament, that was the same, 1, 2, depending on when you looked, either they were 1 or 2, with A&M being the other. And now that's especially the case. First of all, that I believe in that. I'm with the team of destiny stuff that you're talking about. I think there's a certain something to when you win a game like Friday night's game. I think there's something to that. The other side of it is that A&M has had their second starters gotten hurt. He was very good on the year. They lost him in the Super Regional.
Right.
The a kid that's going to be a high draft pick for them, Montgomery, who's a transfer from Stanford, is out for the tournament. And then yesterday, the kid that went over the center field fence and brought a ball back when they played Florida, hurt himself rounding third base and has a hamstring issue, and they don't know whether he's going to be able to go the next time A&M takes the field. So is the latest I've heard. So they're down 3 excellent players. And Tennessee basically is sitting there at full strength right now, 2-0 in the deal. So, yeah, Georgia, I think from here, I think Tennessee's going to have to try to not win this thing, to be honest with you. And I just don't see anybody beating them 2 out of 3 from here. I just don't, or beating them 2 days in a row.
So it's always been a fan base that's big. It's always been a fan base that travels, mostly in football. But what kind of numbers are you hearing are out there that are Tennessee fans?
Well, I think there's a few thousand people there now. I think that if the Vols get to that championship series, I was talking with Matt Dixon, who helps me out today with a lot of this coverage. I would venture to guess that it'll be well north of 10,000 people will be there for that championship series easily.
That is
easily. It's crazy.
It's awesome.
My question is, you saw Ole Miss in the national championship, Mississippi State. Those 2 fan bases took over TD Ameritrade. Does Tennessee do that, especially if it's A&M? I know there's a lot of A&M people up there too, Tony. I mean, A&M, Tennessee, that'd be a clash of all clashes. I know A&M's banged up, but I wonder if Tennessee sort of takes over like Ole Miss and Mississippi State did.
I don't know, because those A&M people have had so little success as well. But you've got a great point. I mean, what's the last championship A&M won, if you stop and think about it? In anything.
That's a good question.
They've never won in football.
Nope. In basketball, they're okay. I mean, they're not, and in baseball, it's been a while. So I think this is the first time they're 2-0 in this format. So I guess it's 2 pretty hungry fan bases. They're a little closer, I would think, to Omaha. I just think you're going to see a ton of people. I just can't believe, and you guys have seen this sport yourselves for years and years. I just can't believe how neat of a sport this is and how good it is. It's just such a good, fun sport. The kids respect it and play hard, and just a fun thing. It really is.
And how amazing that it was hidden for so many years. Nobody knew any of this stuff. Kelly, your witness.
Tony, what's up, man?
Kelly, it's always good when we get together. It's called the meeting of the minds, my friend.
I was hoping to get your mug on the screen today, but what's up with the email? That sounds like something that I would do.
Hey, Kelly, I'm extremely attractive today. I got to tell you that, with my head shining bright. My wife will not let me anywhere near the passwords, and I got logged out. I can't tell a lie. So there you go.
Yeah, that's me too. I'm not supposed to go where the passwords are. That's just that's a no-no for me as well. So hey, play a little hypothetical with me. So did Blake Burke go the other night? I want to ask you that. I asked John Wilkerson that yesterday. Did he go the other night? Because just think, if they call him out on that checked swing that he had, this is a totally different deal, and we're not talking about UT in the same light.
Isn't that sports? Game of inches, right? Look, I've seen a lot less called than that. I've seen a lot less called. The issue is, to end a baseball game, if that's middle of second inning, you could call that. To end a baseball game, that guy's not going to call that. To end a baseball game. I mean, something close like that. I've seen a lot worse or a lot less called, though. Well, George, what is your sense? And what did John Wilkerson say? George, what is your sense first? And then tell me what Wilkerson said. I'd be curious to hear what he said.
Well, first of all, I went exactly where you did, which is the third base umpire does not want to ring somebody up and end the game on something that is that bang bang. Now, whether that's right or wrong, that's human nature. And I'm totally with you on it. But I'll also say this. I don't think anybody knows from the rule book what the hell a check swing really is.
And you can
they say if the bat's got across your hip, whatever that is supposed to mean. It's a lot like I think the Supreme Court definition of obscenity back in the day. It's like, you know it when you see it. And it's like, okay, a check swing, you know it when you see it.
That's
okay,
a great
fine.
line.
And so from my perspective, Florida State, this is their 24th appearance, okay, in this thing. They've never won one of these. Never. Now, they've cranked, since we've been sitting talking, they've hit 2 home runs in the top of the 9th inning. They're extremely powerful. They are averaging 7-8 runs in this thing so far. They're by far the highest scoring team out here, and they're highly comfortable out here in this ballpark. They're pretty scary to try and knock these guys down and beat them. Tennessee obviously has a pitching advantage. They obviously are explosive with their bats. So, this thing is interesting. But when you are over 24 or over 23 coming in and soon to be over 24, if this thing goes according to the way it should, when you come out of a loser bracket, it's nearly impossible to beat a team like Tennessee twice in a row when you have no pitching left. At any rate, you have to have things like that happen to you. And I can't imagine what that feels like to be one of these Florida State baseball fans. They have an incredible tradition. They've had a ton of All-Americans down through the years. And truly, they lost a game for the ages the other night, letting Tennessee come back from that deficit. I mean, it was just utterly incredible. And, I just don't think it came down to that one swing. I mean, they did a lot of silly stuff, kind of let the Vols back in that thing.
Tony, so I said something yesterday to Billy and George about this, and I don't think there's anything that concerns me or probably concerns you about, where the Vols are. They've got all the players, they've got all the game in the world, but the thing that does kind of, is at the top of the list for me is they're getting a little chirpy. I mean, Christian Moore, the other day he started chirping at the umpire, and he stared him down one time. And then I remember, I don't know what the pitcher was, but he was arguing balls and strikes while he was pitching. So, I mean, if something like that happens and you get an ump, like Christian Moore stared him down, and if you get an ump like that and gets irritated and throws him out of the game, how big could that be to lose a player like Christian Moore?
See, I think that's well put by you, because I think it's true. Look, you're talking about Sunday night's game. Friday, he was kind of going back and forth with the home plate ump, and he put a ball in play, got a base hit down the right field line, and had the presence of mind to turn to the guy and talk to him on his way down the first base. And Chris Burke, who went here and still holds a lot of the offensive records here and does a great job for ESPN, he commented at the time, he said, hey, you better be careful. Somebody needs to get their arms around SEMO, Christian Moore in this case, because, I think the umpires have shown a lot of discretion so far watching this event. The other night, and again, back to that Florida State game, Tony came out of the dugout to argue a balls and strikes call, which, again, in Major League Baseball, you do anything near that, you're gone. And then he came out and went crazy after what was a ticky-tack ball call, which I think he was right to argue that. But at any rate, I think that the thing about Tennessee that makes them so interesting and amusing is that they play on the edge. It's also the very thing, and they've corralled it for the most part. They've figured out how to not be the way they were a couple years ago, but it's also the thing that is a little scary about them, just from the perspective of Christian Moore. I mean, could have gotten, there are umps out there that could have or would have thrown him out of games for just turning around and just staring at the umpire after a strike call. Like, what are you doing? Like, you can't do that. You're right, Kelly.
Tony, Hunter Ensley's catch was one of the better catches I've ever seen in center field. Left some eye black out there, and gave his all for Tennessee, as they say. What have you heard on him? And does it nerve you a little bit seeing potentially Colby Backus out there in center instead of Hunter Ensley?
No, not really. Backus played center for the Vols when they played at Kentucky earlier in the spring. And, in a bigger ballpark like Kentucky has, one of the bigger ones in the league. And he was very good out there. Now, obviously, he hasn't played a lot. The thing about Ensley that we're hearing is that Hunter Ensley is not. Oh, my other phone is going there, guys. Hey, you always listen. You always keep two of them, okay? You just because you never know. Kelly remembers that from the football recruiting days. You always have two phones. At any rate, what I'm hearing on Ensley is that he has a couple of things going on. For one, he got woozy and he got dinged and wobbly when he hit the wall. And the other thing is he's got a hamstring issue. And the hamstring issue is really the thing that they're concerned about. I just don't think you take a guy with a hamstring issue and stick him in center field out there in that ballpark. They may have to go win it without him in center field if that's the case going forward. Now, don't quote me on that, but it seems to be a very tough ask, at least tomorrow anyway, for him to be back out there in center field. So I think perhaps he DHs tomorrow and Backus ends up in center field. Or another thing they could do is they could take Kavaris Tears and shift him to center field as well. He's done that. So he's an excellent player, guys. Imagine their team is so good that he bats six. Imagine how good their lineup is when that's your six hitter. It's crazy.
And their lineup's scary.
And Reese Chapman, who's probably the 10th or 11th guy, hits a bomb.
And Chapman in his class was among the top 5 players in America when he came here. He's been sort of a late arriver, but they've got huge plans for him in the future.
Tony, do this before you go. Not that you need any more listeners, but there are a lot of people in the Middle Tennessee area who may be hearing you for the first time, who are going to want to get involved in some of your post-game stuff over the next week as the Vols go to try to win a national title in baseball. How do they do that?
Yeah, as soon as every game's over, you can hear us at tclub.team. Of course, we do our daily show. I put a blog up every day. It's a couple thousand words up there today. We're just living, breathing, eating, and sleeping this stuff. And, generally this is the off time of the year. And, who knew that? Like, I was looking at my wife the other day and I said, when this is over, I got to go on vacation because you do a couple of those. Like Sunday night, we did our post-game Sunday night was 2.5 hours. And I had told her, Father's Day, I had the kids here. I told her, I said, I'm only going to be 90 minutes. She goes, yeah, sure you are. You're only going to be 90 minutes.
It's called She Knows You.
I think that's the point. Yeah.
I think it is. I know it is. Hey, thank you for doing this as always. These are fun times. Enjoy this ride because I think it's going to take you to the promised land.
I do, George. You're getting me excited here. tclub.team is where you find us. Thanks, George. I appreciate you, man.
Beautiful.